Low fires, and I'm here to answer in this video just who the hell am I? uh, in the spirit of vulnerability, I'm gonna start you out a little. I guess I'll give you a little story, a little breakdown of how Anthony became Ari, how little goofy old weirdo me became the tarot reader, energy healer you have today. So as a kid, I was very independent, played by myself a lot, grew up in the country. Our first home was a trailer. We were on WIC as kids, and my parents didn't come from a well-to-do family or whatever, and they did their best to do their best, which is so applies to the reading today. If you're interested, listen to today's reading, because a lot of these concepts kind of came up. So I just figured now's the time to share. On top of, growing up with kind of just enough at a younger age until later on when my parents started making more money. As it goes, kind of climb the ladder. I was also a very sensitive kid. Anytime there was a death with like one of our pets or someone in the family, I tended to be very emotional or affected. And as many of you know, when you're in the womb, the first 9 months, 222 on the clock, you're very impressionable. And literally in the first 9 months, your emotions are coming from your mother. And as best as my parents did their best to raise us from their understanding, I recall a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry around money, and as well as things to do with social indifferences. Not too far into it, but it had an effect on me. Parts of my family were racist. Many things were said in my younger years which did not align with me about Mexicans, about Black folk, and some of which I had to kind of deprogram from myself, because there was just these patterns that would play out until like later in life in college, when I'd find myself thinking some of these things. But I digress. I was really tuned into animals, and I started to kind of eat my feelings, I guess you could say. I was a bit of a pudgy little boy, and in turn I got picked on for not just being sensitive, but also being chubby. I have the nickname of Thunder Thighs, of girly boy, love tone, just like weird types of being cut down that really had a effect on my self-confidence and sense of self. Moving forward, as growing up in a Catholic household, I learned through church, was taught that, being gay, being the LGBTQ community was not okay. It wasn't accepted by Spirit and God from their point of view. And so I often struggled with the idea of wanting to even go to church. I often refused. I'd throw a fit and like, no, I'm staying home. Or I would try to sleep in is to not go to church. And because I just knew something was off. And, how could people, for me, believe in a religion? Everyone's allowed to believe what they want to believe in, but to me, how could people go to this place and believe that part of God's children don't have a right to be loved? And also, I had the experience of, watching my parents and their church friends and others, not just my parents, but all kinds of people, gossip after church. He'd sit around and eat donuts and basically gossip after he sat through a sermon of talking about, accepting people and loving people. So there was just some hypocrisy that was difficult for me to deal with. I suppose since I've always kind of been able to see through people, as one of my gifts has been to see the real people in people and how the roles that they're playing are just like acting a part. Well, following high school, into high school where I played football to kind of, which wound up being kind of good for me as I was able to get out some of that energy and aggression I felt towards society and others for picking on me, for bullying me, for being that little weirdo that liked to talk too much or showed up everywhere without socks, wore cowboy boots and sweatpants to school. And by high school, I learned to take pride in the fact that I was kind of weird. I recognized that I was a bit weird, a bit different from everyone. I didn't enjoy when kids picked on teachers or others, but I never, at the same time, I didn't know how to defend others. I didn't know how to stand up for myself, as much my parents taught me how to kind of be myself and be loving. I wasn't exactly taught how to stand up for myself as far as my opinions, and without it being in anger. And I didn't want to, I was taught to think that anger was not acceptable, that it was a bad thing. And so it wasn't an option for me, so I bottled a lot of those feelings up. And by the time end of high school rolled around, I was leaning towards atheism. I didn't really see the value in religions or going to church. I was reading Eckhart Tolle at the time. As I entered college, I was becoming interested in psychology and taking classes on art history and writing. But I've always been interested in the arts and ceramics and painting. Painting is one of the things I remember doing earliest in life. I had an easel, like a kid's easel at a young age, and I loved to paint and just play, be goofy. and save the gymnastics story, I guess, for another time. You know, and I came into college, I started to learn more about Buddhism and different types of religion, and how not every religion believed that, you know, being gay was a sin, and that there were other accepting communities out there. I had met people in the, you know, Pride community who helped me to recognize that there was nothing wrong with me. And I started to accept and have gratitude for myself more, and also embrace the feminine aspects, allowing myself to display some of those more feminine aspects. All at the same time, I was kind of going through an emo stage. The black hair, piercings and everything. Had 11 piercings at one time. It's just 11:11 on the clock. That's hilarious. And by that time, I started to lean towards more agnostic. I had also experienced my first psilocybin trip, which was profound and helped me to see the connectivity of the earth and us beings, and the true love and connection that's available to us, the value of going within and experiencing the feelings that come up as mushrooms help us to do. Towards the end of school and towards, you know, I had made quite a few good friends and fallen out of alignment with some of them. I'd tried to cut back on drinking while many had not. And I went back and forth with that when I met my last partner, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the clock. We kind of got together on drinking wine and having coffee and just having a good time. Inebriated, really. Getting stoned and drinking and playing out our karma. I see now, believe now, that the relationship that lasted for 13 years, 13 minutes on the clock, 13:13, was in essence a playing out of karma. As the saying goes, the first person we really get together with in life is often out of lust and karma, playing out our lustful relationships. And then we meet like our twin flame. And then, you know, if we don't stick with that cycles, we move into soulmate. All this being said, I find myself here, and having just exited that 13-year relationship of codependency, I take responsibility for the part I played in codependency, but also in confusing lust with love. It's not easy to let that go. It's maybe easier for some than others, but as a gay man, 14:44 on the clock, though I knew deep down I was supported and connected to something spirit, that was essentially what it came back to where I am now, where I'm not religious, but I believe in spirit. I believe in the angels, especially after my awakening. I had a heart chakra awakening last summer in July, where I felt the culmination of the earth grid and the Christ grid ignite a spark in my heart. And from there, it's been a 8-month journey of quickly and slowly breaking apart everything else that's not working, didn't fit in my life, and didn't fit with my highest divine timeline. And so I say all of this to let you know that I've been there. I've been through the bouts of depression and suicidal thoughts. I've been confused with, in relationship to narcissistic partnering situationships. As an empath, I've had my fair share of narcissists show up in my life. No need to name names or directly point, but it just is what it is. We are where we are. But I knew that my inner child needed something more, that I needed to reignite this divine spark within me, Queen of Wands, I'm looking at on the table, and find the strength to stand firmly in me. And the more I did that over the last year, the more it seems others who aren't ready to wake up or ready to or even understand what I've been through, going through, I've had to let go, and especially let go of the outcome in general. So thank you for listening to my little story today. I will come back more with a bit on other parts of my life and childhood, past lives. Perhaps we can chat about how they've played out in this life and how it played those early years had an effect on me for my entire life, up until I realized it was up to me to change it, to reach for joy. Thank you for listening. I love you. High flyers. For now. Bye-bye.